You know what I'm saying? So they have to keep you in a state of constant want, where you're in poverty. Anything that I want to do is not going to happen unless it coincides with their plans as well. For example, I wanted to study acting and I wanted to go to Los Angeles and do all that. And that was okay with them, because then they could do all kinds of things with that, right? Thing was, I never knew this. I never knew the extent of the control these people had over my life until just recently. I didn't even know. I knew something was going on. I didn't realize, though, that it was my own, that it had been going on my whole life, and that I was like a piece of their property. Another reason that I tell you that is because right before I got pregnant, remember I told you about the license plates? Well, right before I got pregnant, I was going to this guy's house because I was being gang stalked really bad at that point, and I'll get to that later. But I was going to my child's father. I was going to his house, and I was going there, and I was on the freeway, and right before I turned off to where he lived, there were 2 or 3 cars, I can't remember which. There were 2 or 3 cars that cut in front of me, and you guys that have been gang stalked, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, it's not, they cut in front of you and their license plate says your name or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So they cut in front of me, just really absurd driving behavior, hazardous behavior, actually. And the license, there were 2 or 3 of them, and I can't remember which. And the license plate said Eve, like EVE, Eve. The next one said Daddy. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember exactly. It said something like Daddy. And then the next one said Baby Boy. I was only staying with my child's father for a month because there was stuff happening at that house that was freaking weird, freaking scary. There was this other guy there who had some kids, and he was teaching them to try to speak telepathically to each other. There's some really weird stuff going on there. There was like all these issues with like abuse, and some of the kids, there were lawsuits going on because some of the kids had been abused. There was just a really, really scary, crazy environment, so I got the hell out of there as fast as I could. And, I found out after I left that I was pregnant. And, yeah, I mean, I did have a boy. But I had dreams about it before I had my son. I had dreams about him. So I knew that, I was going to have a baby boy. But the thing that really scared me was I got a text message from his father, but it may not have even been his father. I don't even know, because I can't trust anything unless it's face-to-face. But I got a text message from his father saying, "You're preggo," or something like that, saying that I was pregnant. And that was before I even knew I was pregnant. And I was in a different state by that time. I had gone to a different state by that time. And he knew that I was pregnant before I even knew. So that was kind of weird. And then the other thing, or whoever had texted me, somebody texted me with his number. So, that could be it too. I don't really know. But that was pretty scary. And then the other thing was he had said to me something about my child being a test tube baby or something like that. I can't remember what it was, that I had been artificially inseminated. It was an insinuation that I had been artificially inseminated. I don't remember exactly what the phrase was that was said. But I'm basically, as many of you know, I believe that we are souls. I don't believe that we're just genetic material that's just inhabiting, we're not animal, we're not just physical bodies, we're souls. So, I have a feeling these people think that they own me, they own my son. There is a possibility that, my mother was artificially inseminated, that my son was there's a possibility that I was artificially inseminated with my son and that my mother was artificially inseminated with me. But regardless of what the hell these freaks are doing, it doesn't change the fact that I'm a soul that came from God. And my son is a soul that came from God. Get what I'm saying? They cannot control life. They may be able to genetically engineer people, but they cannot control the life that comes into a body. They cannot control that. They don't have that power. Only God has that power. So, I think that probably many of these people believe that they own me, that they own my son, that we're their property, but I disagree, and so does Jesus. So, all I can say to those people is bye, because you're not going to be here for much longer. This planet isn't for you. Yeah, they think they own human beings. They think they have, they think that's how they justify, they don't let you, you're not free, you can't go get a job anywhere you want to get a job. It just has to be approved through them, and they have to allow you to work at that place. You might be facilitated into really high-profile situations that you didn't even try to get there. That happened to me a few times. But then on the other hand, if you want a job, they're not going to let you have it unless it's one of theirs, unless it's something that they want you to do, so they can use you because they spent a lot of time and money on you. Get what I'm saying? That's how they justify it. So they're putting God's people into slavery, and they're going to be punished for that. But as I've said before, I think I've told you this before, that, if they try to get to my son, they're going to have to do it over my dead body. Now, I mean that literally. I will be in a body bag before they get between me and my son. So, and people will die. People will die. Because we're in a war, and I realize that now. I think it's really important for all of us to realize we're in a war, because one of the things that, if you look at the Middle Eastern countries and you see how ferociously those people are fighting, I know that a lot of Americans think, oh, well, they're like that because they're crazy. No, they're like that because they're older than us. Their countries are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years older than our country. They are doing that because they know we're in a war. They know we're in a war right now. The entire planet. We are in a war against the adversary. And those countries over there, they're older than us, and they know that we're in a war. And their weapons have been taken away, and they're fighting with sticks and stones. They don't care. So it's important, the sooner you realize that we are in a war, the better off you're going to be. Because let me tell you this, one of the ways that they win is by, and by the way, they're able to make my son say things to me. So if you can hear him in the background yelling, as soon as I start talking about how we're in a war, they start sending impulses to my son's brain to say things. Of course, he's very young, so it's hard, it's not clear, but I can imagine that when he gets older, I'm really going to have to teach him not to follow those impulses, because they are trying to send actual phrases and words to my child. So whether you want to believe it or not, that's your choice. I'm telling you right now, they're not just doing this to me. They're trying to control everybody on this planet. It's not just me. It's not just the other TIs. It's everybody. So I can't really remember what it was that I was going to tell you about that, but let me just go back to the thing with the girl that died. Okay, she died. And then, you know, so there was something going on there because she was complaining about my stepfather as well. So there was something going on there. And then, later on, I told you about this in some of my other videos. Later on, I went back to Alaska. And I was thinking about, there was a guy that I had remembered from childhood who somehow knew about the white van incident. And I don't know how he knew that, because I had not told anyone about the white van incident. It was one of those things that was so frightening for me. I just tried to block it out of my mind, didn't even speak about it. But somehow there was this kid that went to my church that somehow knew about the white van. I don't know how. I don't know how he knew. And I remember him, I knew that he knew because he was talking to his mom, and his mom was talking to my mom and asking her about it and trying to figure out what happened. And I was just really freaked out and scared, and so I just like ran away. But I remember hearing that, and then years later, years and years and years later, I went back to, I was back in Alaska, and I decided in my mind, because I knew this kid was living in that town where I was, and he was still there, and so I decided in my mind that I was going to go talk to that kid and find out, hey, you know what? What's the deal with that white van thing? You knew about that. You told your mom about that. How'd you know about that? So I did not tell anyone what I was planning to do. I didn't say it out loud. But I was thinking about it a lot, just this one night. And I was thinking to myself, I gotta do it tomorrow. I gotta do it tomorrow. You know, I gotta do it right away. I gotta go talk to this kid. And find out what he knows about the white van incident. Because I couldn't remember anything about it. I knew it was on Jehovah's Witness property. I knew there was several men. That's all I know. And then it's just a missing block of time in my mind. So I'm thinking about it all, you know, just all night I'm thinking about this. I'm going to go talk to him tomorrow. I'm going to go talk to him tomorrow. I never told anyone what I was planning to do. I was only thinking about it. And the next morning, my mother came over, because I was living very near my mother at that time. My mother came over to my place and told me that kid, that same guy, was dead. That he had died the night before. Or that, I think it was the night before that he had died, but he was dead. The very next day, he died of a drug overdose. Supposedly. They lie a lot. That was extremely scary for me. Traumatizing. I can't even imagine what it was like for his family. It was very, very scary for me, because planning to go talk to him. That was before I knew that they could read thoughts. And by the way, they can't read thoughts that well. One of the reasons they use the gang stalkers is because they're trying to figure out if they're right about what you're thinking or if they're wrong about it.